Fixez.com bringing you another repair video today. Looks like we're going to be working on an LG Optimus G Pro. In today's video, we're going to show you the steps necessary to remove and replace your front touchscreen. Before we get started with our disassemble, let's go ahead and go over our suggested tools. Small Phillips screwdriver, plastic opening tools, a spudger, fine-tipped curved tweezers, a heat gun or a blow dryer. To get started with our disassemble, we want to remove the back cover. Let's grab our plastic opening tool and find the notch in that back cover and begin prying up at this location, working around the perimeter until we can remove the cover from the phone. With the back cover removed, we can now lift the battery out of the phone and remove any SIM cards or micro SD cards at this time. We have 14 Phillips screws that we need to remove to get the rear portion of the phone's case out of the way. With all of our screws out, let's attack the seam around the perimeter of the phone with our plastic opening tool, gently prying some separation between the display assembly and the rear portion of the case. Once the rear portion of the case is removed, you might notice some buttons missing from their secured locations. Let's keep track of those buttons for our reassembly that we will be doing shortly. Let's now work towards pulling the motherboard from the phone. Let's start with our rear-facing camera and gently pry up on its connector, removing the camera from the motherboard. And then we're going to have a series of 4 connections, 3 on the top of the phone, and 1 down towards the dock port connector that we need to pry up. And last, our coaxial connection that needs to be removed. With all of our connections removed from the motherboard, we can pry it up from the body of the phone and remove it. Our touchscreen ribbon cable has a small control unit that's adhered into the body of our phone. Let's use our spudger and gently peel that up so that we can release it for our touchscreen removal. You'll see here our front-facing camera fell out of its location. With our motherboard removed from the phone, it's now time to peel away our display assembly from its frame. Let's begin doing that with our heat gun or our blow dryer, applying heat to the adhesive to soften it up so that we can begin to peel it away from the framework. About 1 to 2 minutes should suffice with the heat. We found the easiest way to begin separation of the display assembly is to push on it from the back side through the front-facing camera hole. Hold the framework tight, push through from the back, and it'll begin the slight separation. Continue that separation with your plastic opening tool all the way around the perimeter of the display until it is fully separated from your framework. With the touchscreen completely separated and maneuvering your ribbon cables through the framework, we should now have access to the LCD, which if we needed to change it this time, can be gently pried up with your spudger for replacement. Depending on how severe your touchscreen was cracked, you may have some broken glass stuck in the old adhesive. We need to go ahead and clean that out at this time and prep the framework for our replacement part. Looks like we're ready to reassemble our Optimus G Pro. You'll recognize the new adhesive strips laid down in preparation for our replacement touchscreen. Fixez.com sends out free adhesive strips with all of our replacement parts. You're going to want to utilize a pair of scissors or a razor blade to cut your adhesive strips to size and apply them in preparation for your reassemble. We now want to peel back the covers on our newly applied adhesive strips so that we can position our touchscreen onto our framework. Now, before we position our new touchscreen onto our frame assembly, we want to go ahead and make sure we clean the LCD of any dust or fingerprints we might have left behind, as when we do apply our new touchscreen, those fingerprints and dust will be inaccessible for future cleaning. Let's now peel back the protective cover on the inside of our touchscreen before applying it. and maneuver the ribbon cable through the framework appropriately. And then we can line up our new touchscreen to our framework before we begin pressing down firmly around the entire perimeter of our new touchscreen, securing it in place. There's a small bit of adhesive that holds the ribbon cable in place for the touchscreen. Let's position that onto the phone's frame so that it's in place for when we put in our motherboard. Let's begin our reassembly with our front-facing camera. Let's position it in its housing properly. We can now maneuver our motherboard into the phone around all of our connections. Let's firmly press down on all of our plug-style connections and secure them into our motherboard. And let's not forget about our antenna coaxial style connection as well. Our final connection into the motherboard will be our rear-facing camera. We can go ahead and set that into the housing and secure its connection. It's now time to bring in the rear portion of our phone's case. Let's not forget about the 3 buttons that we need to secure in their locations before we snap that rear portion of the case down to the phone. Press firmly on the clips around the perimeter of the phone to secure that rear portion of the case. And let's also test functionality of those 3 buttons before we complete our full assembly. Let's bring in our securing screws for our phone's case and tighten them down appropriately. We're now in the home stretch of our reassemble. We can go ahead and install our battery, SIM card, and micro SD cards at this time. Our rear cover is last to go onto the phone. Let's place it down and press firmly on its clips to secure it in place. And we can now power the phone on to test for full functionality. And there you have it. Yet another successful repair by Fixez.com. All of the replacement parts and tools that you've seen in this video today are available at www.fixez.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.